Okay.
All right. So I just want to set the context again for those of you who weren't here or for those of you who are watching the stream and were not able to attend the keynote. Again, the problem that we're trying to solve, we go back to this around convenient, fast personal experiences on the student side. We don't have a lot of time today, so we're going to do a lot of demos in the next 25 minutes or so, and then we'll try to leave some questions for the end. But this talent gap and kind of making sure that AI can help us and kind of empower us to answer those students' questions and be there as part of that whole journey, we want that to come through. And that's why we build Bolt Assistants, right? That's why we build Bolt Assistants, which are digital assistants that are helping in every aspect or in every area of the student journey. Both from a recruiting perspective, current students, and even other constituents, alumni, and so on and so forth, and peer advisors. So we showed a different version of this. This was the original one, but it's a little bit more clear, this AI stack component, because what you can see in here is that orchestration at the top, right? So you can clearly see how we're thinking about that AI stack again, right? With the brain being that large language model, the knowledge base, and the first thing that we're going to talk about is the knowledge base today, just so you understand that that's the foundational component that's pulling all this data from. It is the grounding that we're happening there. And then the skills that are being put on top of this. And then the last part is the orchestration. So when you think about orchestration, is about, okay, you have a bot that is trained or has a personality and is prompted and is tuned to do certain things like admissions counselor, a financial aid advisor, or so on and so forth, but it's actually rooted, that data, and rooted into everything else that's underneath. That context is always coming up underneath, right? So it's not going to give you, or it's not going to give the students an answer that is similar to like a ChatGPT. We're always narrowing it down. We're always, the word is grounding, right? So we're always grounding it on the content that's available. Before an element, or with BoltBot, we were grounding it in the knowledge base, but now because we have very different ones, we can kind of take a look at how we're giving them access to each one of those. So I want this picture to stay because we're going to be building more and more of these use cases, and now we're expanding, you know, horizontally, right, rather than building more layers on top. So now we have all the layers, and we're building more of them. So I want Petar to kind of go a little bit deeper into the knowledge base because there's some components in here that are really, really important. And rather than, you know, us, you know, talking more about it, you know, the slides, he'll go into and kind of give a little preview and dive directly into the knowledge base in Element.
Is this okay? Can everybody see? So this is the knowledge base inside of Element. It's here under the data and automations. This is actually what we saw, what we told it powers BoltBot, and now what we call this the assistants. I want to show how easy it is to add any type of content. Some of you who use BoltBot already know this, but I see in the room that a lot of them have not used it so far, so it's probably your first time seeing this. So there's a couple of we call them article types. You can do a text, a URL, a whole website. This is a really powerful one because this is what we talked about that pulls from your sitemap. So this will load, for example, the whole Element sitemap, and you can select what you want and actually pre-filter to if you want only your blog posts or something else. And you can add many more of these. You don't need to add only once. You can add as many times as you want and select your fine-grained selections. The file upload that we mentioned already. But the two that we announced today is the YouTube video and YouTube channel. YouTube channel is a really interesting one because if you think about it, what we now shown for the sitemap, it's able to list you out all your URLs that exist and all your content. This does the same thing. This actually will just list out all your YouTube videos, and you'll be able to select which ones you want to load in, and for that to populate in the assistants and to use that as knowledge. So if you recorded anything or have an announcement ceremony, all that information can now be available to your students. You don't need to transcribe it or write it yourself. It's already in there.
So I just want to stop there for just a second. So what's ended up happening here is that essentially the whole audio and the whole transcription of that content is being loaded in, and we're able to give answers on any part of that video. So if you have, I mean, this would have been amazing for like lectures and you know, courses to load in all those online lectures, right? But that's what we're doing. So all that text, all that transcription that's happening that you see on YouTube, all the transcription, we're loading that into our knowledge base, and then we're providing answers. So if an answer is in a video, that you're loading in, it's the same thing as if you're loading in an article or a document or a web page.
So here you can see an example. This is the preview, or actually the transcript actually from the YouTube video. And you can see the preview is available for any type of document, that being a text, or this is text, you can see it here. But if we get a URL somewhere below, I'll be able to show it, 1 sec. So here, and this is what we actually get from the website and store it. We do some smart transformations because most websites are stored in HTML, and as developers build it, they might add some things that are extra. So we try to strip off everything that's not necessary. We try to detect where it's like cookie banners, remove them. So we only load the correct content. This is a really important piece. So if you're adding any content yourself, we try to teach people is nowadays we call this AI-ready content. You need to think what you're putting in there because the better the quality of what's inside, the better the responses you'll get on the other side. Where's the biggest value? If you have really clean, curated content, right, that powers everything, right? Your people can use it, your people can search it manually either, but you'll also have AI that's on top that will do even a better job. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then the writers can actually build better, writing or transform that for better knowledge around the marketing content as well.
Correct, and we will show that as well in an example.
Yeah. Okay. So when we look at this, we have one of the things I didn't mention is like the web scraping capabilities. There's about 21,000 pages that we've scraped for all of the users right now on your websites. It's really smart around web scraping. We had some questions, and we've kind of been building this over the last year. Things like, we were getting DDoS. We're basically getting banned because we're trying to scrape certain websites really fast. And the schools are always saying, hey, you're trying to DDoS us, or denial of service attack. That's what it stands for. So essentially, they think like it's somebody bad trying to put the website down. But we've learned a lot of those. So we built a really robust scraping engine that we can now pull in a lot of that data. Petar mentioned how do we, like even if you have dynamic web pages that are JavaScript based or they are dynamic, we essentially load all that stuff in a virtual browser, and then we scrape the content. So if it's dynamic, the text doesn't have to be returned in there. It can be a dynamic web page or a dynamic site that part of that. The access control is important because that one is like we're doing what's called, like there's semantic search, but there's also hybrid search, meaning that it's a really, really interesting problem to solve. And essentially, these AI systems, as they move forward, they need grounding. They need a source of truth in order. So when somebody says, hey, I'm going to go to ChatGPT and get an answer, sure, you're going to get a general answer, but you need your content and your knowledge base in order to get grounded answers. So you can use them, you can use these models as the brain, as the reasoning engine, and then point them to your content. But now your content is very vast. You can't fit all that stuff into one place. Yes, the context window is getting larger and larger, but you need to find relevant stuff to tell it, hey, here's the relevant things that we feel like can answer this question, and then now answer this question or do whatever operation based on that content. And finding the relevant stuff, that's the secret sauce, and that's a really hard problem that Petar mentioned, where we're using a lot of advanced search capabilities, both keyword or hybrid components and also semantic search, like the meaning of things, and then bringing that back in. So it's a really advanced, system in order to do this, and it can scale really, really well because now we can point it and we can, use that kind of system for a lot of things. And of course, when we get content, sometimes it's like it's a blob of content. So re-ranking them and saying, okay, here's another model that says, okay, this information is relevant based on this question, right? So we go back and we try to do kind of a reflection on that content and the question or whatever we're trying to get out of it. So it re-ranks the content. If we pull in 100 articles, it says, okay, here's all the articles, but then we re-rank them to find the most relevant ones, even from the ones that get returned. So lots of stuff happening there, and that's kind of the deep dive that I wanted to give you some details, because when you think about it, it's not a matter of just, let's put a prompt together, here's some context, and let's kind of bring that information in and let's generate some answers there.
And that's the same thing that here you see what's mentioned, the advanced hybrid search, why we say hybrid search, because when GPT-4 came and people started building applications, everybody said semantic search, semantic search. Yes, it helps, but it's not a silver bullet. And some of you probably seen, sometimes you even ask some chatbots and they will not give you the right answer, even though the content is in there, because it's not enough. And also depends on what content is inside. We had a really good example for our help center articles, because Element is a product, has a lot of like keywords that are specific, they have overloaded meaning. If you do a semantic search, you don't get really good results. So you need to do like a hybrid. You need to do like, hey, I need to match on a word plus semantically as well and combine the two. So that's kind of like one of the tricks that we do as well to make it higher accuracy.
Yeah, and the document OCR is really, really good. So it uses machine learning to extract all the tables. The tables are represented as text-based tables for us. You can throw in a PowerPoint presentation, you can throw all that, and you'll kind of extract all of that content and that text, and it's really good. I think we handle dozens and dozens of kind of file types in there that can be thrown in. Yeah.
Almost any type.
Almost anything, yeah. All right, so the assistance for students, we'll jump into kind of the assistants themselves, right? We're going to talk a little bit about the roles, kind of how we set up those roles, and how you can now build your own assistants and kind of what they look like, and then how you can kind of scope down the knowledge that they have and the skills that they have, and how you can embed them in different places. And then Petar can kind of go a little bit more into details in some of the other areas as well.
So starting from today, all the people that had BallBot automatically get Bold Assistants as well. It appears now in the main menu in the engagement. It actually goes back to here to the conversation settings, and this is where they will live. As you see, it's now much more expanded. It's not just a single bot. There's many of them. This is what we built for the testing. So I want to show you like what's the kind of like the structure of an assistant. There's a couple of configuration options, but it's nothing too complex. This is how it looks like when you configure it. Let's go from the top to the bottom. The most important thing is the assistant type. The assistant type are what we call like the specific role and a personality as well, because different people and different personalities are better suited for certain jobs. So we try to kind of like teach it how to behave, what types of questions to ask, how to handle tricky situations. So that's encompassed in the type as well.
Think about that as a job description, right? We were very detailed job descriptions.
Yes. So you see, for example, the admission advisor as well has a little bit expanded subtypes because there's different variations. And this is something that we actually saw from real usage where BallBot was not sufficient enough. We had Seymour actually had a good example where they had domestic students, international students, and they needed somehow to isolate these two knowledge bases and kind of to drive students one way or another. When it's a bot that does everything, it's really hard to do. You cannot be good at everything. So these types of kind of scoping allows you to be better. Below, you have the skills. The skills are only important if you're using these specific modules inside of Element. You'll see here that you can tell it, you can schedule appointments. So if you're using appointments as the module, it actually can coordinate all of that, find free time, talk to the student about that, and then handle all of that. Also, events, starting an application, even getting an application status. So this is where you configure which skills are available. And also you can say, hey, this one will hand off to a person, this one will not hand off to a person. So those are the important details. Of course, you can give it some personality, give it like a greeting, give it an avatar so it looks nice. We just demoed today the voice, so that's something that's coming up. We'll do a couple more demos today. I think we got the audio now set up properly. And this one is really interesting, the internal description. We'll go about that a little bit after because I want to show you on an example. This is really important. Below there, you can see we call it permissions, but what actually happens is this is where you can do the scoping. So if, for example, you're building an international admission advisor and a domestic admission advisor, you probably would like to scope them. So if they are able to even register students for events, you will go here and say, hey, you don't have access to all events. I will just give you the ones that you can operate on, and you will need to hand off to somebody else to the rest. Same with the application. If you want to have a chatbot that only can start international application, you can just select it here, and that's it. So this is the main part. Even though it looks simple, but for us it was revolutionary when we came, because we were constantly trying to solve that. Like, hey, bot does everything, but with this just simple couple of clicks, you get much more. So one thing that I want to show you now is, okay, you add all these bots, but who can manage them, right? There's 20 of them here. How do they know where they live? Well, we were thinking, and we were like, okay, well, that's actually like in a company, right? You have employees, you need to organize them in departments, and they have a common goal and a common vision, and they work on this area. So we introduced teams. Teams are groups of assistants. They're actually simple. They don't have a lot. So if we take a look at this one, you just say, hey, which assistants work together, and you have conditions where you want to enable them. These conditions vary from, like, you can be like on a specific page. We even support here, one sec. You can also specify specific channel. So if you want, hey, I want specific assistance on an SMS, these ones on email, on this page, this one, this is a sports page, I want the athletics advisor. So you can, that's how you would structure that. So this is kind of like, if you think about it, the delivery mechanism, how you get assistance to your student. And if we take a look, I have here one team that I enabled, the all-star team with a couple of assistants. I added here as an example the assistants for one college page, which is actually the one that we saw today. So you see these 6 are available because that's how we configure them. So would you like to do some demos now? I think that will be in order.
Yep.
And I would like to showcase the handoffs. That's one of the, I think, the most important parts, because if a student gets to the the wrong place, they need to be able to pull out, and the system needs to be smart enough to handle that. Demo that I like to do is this one. Again, we started that during the keynote, but we'll do it a little bit differently now. Student comes and wants to talk to a peer and probably wants to come to an open house. And let's do audio. We'll not do the responses now. We can enable later.
Okay.
But let's.
You don't want to do the responses?
I can, but I'm just worried.
Let's take a risk.
Okay. You live only once, right? So, that's right. Hey, Helen, I'm really interested in coming to see the campus. Is there an open house maybe that I can attend? So this will take a little bit longer because we need to generate the audio. Didn't work.
You didn't refresh it?
No, because it's a new thing, so I don't know everything. But to have it respond in voice, you need to give it a voice, right? This one doesn't have a voice. So we can do maybe this.
In the heart of the city, there is a large park.
Oh,
I think we were going to do...
Which one do you want? Noah?
Yeah,
In the kitchen, the aroma of
That's
fresh.
nice. That's nice.
there we go.
So let's try again. I think it will just continue. Yes, that's perfect. Can you book me for that? Let's see.
You're all set. Please follow this link to complete your registration. elon.notica.aa.
So this is the thing we are working out to fix. Is it actually goes letter by letter to tell the link. So we'll work that over. But we are here. So imagine now the student is, okay, they were at the open house, some time has passed, they come back, and the open house was amazing. I really like that, and I would really like to come and study there. Can I apply somewhere? What's the process? So this will be probably text-based now, after that, I think. So what happens now, because we'll iron this out, but what happens is the peer is not in charge of doing the applications, right?
I've connected you with Carolyn, our admission advisor assistant. She will guide you through the application process. Good luck, Petar.
Thank you. Yes, I would like maybe an undergraduate application if you have that available.
You're so polite.
And I promise a lot.
Yeah. Please and thank you.
We have the Element undergraduate application available. Would you like to start this application?
Yes, I would. It's a little bit faster if maybe you don't type, right?
You can start your undergraduate application here, 5.451.
Okay. The same thing. Thank you, you're really nice. So let's think about, we started an application, some time has passed, and maybe there's the student needs to go through the financial aid process, and they want to get to we always do the deadline, the FAFSA deadline. This might be tricky. I will not say FAFSA, so I need to do a federal, how do you pronounce it, full words?
You can say FAFSA.
It will not understand that, I can assure you that.
Okay.
Or do you want to try to pronounce it? Yeah. I have a question about financial aid. Because I tried FAFSA before the demo.
It didn't understand you?
Yeah, because my English.
I'll connect you with Luke, our financial aid advisor, who can help you with that.
That's perfect.
One moment, please. I've connected you with Luke, our financial aid advisor. He'll be able to assist you with your financial aid questions.
Hey, Luke, can you tell me when is the deadline? You might ask me, what deadline?
So what do you guys think about the voice? It's very natural, right? Yeah.
So you see what happened now? It answered by text again because we didn't add, Luke doesn't have a voice. We didn't assign a voice to him, so he cannot talk, basically. But
Luke is mute, yes, he can't.
But yeah, this I wanted to illustrate, like that handing off, like jumping from one place to another to get to the proper place. So if you think about this, initially when we built this, a lot of it was implicit. We thought just the assistant types would be enough, but it's not true, right? As you see, like there can be different types of admission officers, and you need to scope it a little bit. So we give you some instructions, and if you heard about prompting, this is where a little bit of prompting, just a little bit of prompting can come in handy. When you're explaining, let me find below, I have one example, I think this one. Maria is good. So she's an international student coordinator. So it's a little bit different, right? And it's really specific. So you have the internal description. This is what the other assistants in the team will see. They will see other stuff as well, but this is the kind of the one that takes the higher preference. So this is, you can explain some nitty-gritty stuff. I remember when we initially built this, there was a really good example. The developer who was working on it, he actually used like, hey, this assistant is in charge for a Hong Kong event. So that's really, really specific. And it was able like to detect that and give it just that, because the student gave, hey, what about the Hong Kong event? Where should I go? And it like put him in there. So this is like your like the ultimate power that you can use to orchestrate how you want the experience. So you see, you can limit the knowledge, you can control how they hand off, you can put them on specific places, so you have a lot of control.
All right. So the other thing that we have built is the AI assistants for staff members, right? So we went a little bit deeper into the student assistants. We're going to expand those, more skills. We're going to add more skills there. But we talked about this one, the personal assistant. So that's available today. I think we've turned that on. It was in preview for a little bit, but that's available today. And then, so Petar will kind of talk a little bit more about that. But the main thing that I want to highlight there is this is going to essentially be an area of improvement for us. So we're going to deliver use cases and we're going to deliver functionality and element through these assistants. So we're wrapping up functionality and delivering it through these use cases and through these assistants, capabilities that you can able to do in Element. So long are the days where we're going to build an amazing 20, 30 page kind of UI flow to see like, okay, we're going to pick the best UI to actually accomplish this thing. It's most likely going to be delivered as an AI assistant. They can actually do all those things for you, and the interface is going to be a natural language interface. You're going to just be able to tell it what you want to do and understand and actually accomplish those tasks. So that's the vision, and that's what we're focusing on as we build more and more functionality. So you now have one interface to actually go through and communicate with the system rather than knowing all the places that you need to go to. Now, it can be a little bit daunting because sometimes as we transition, but I think ChatGPT has actually primed us now to go in and ask it any question or ask it anything and be able to see what the responses are. So that's, you know, like the behavior has changed very, very quickly there. So we're hoping that you, and of course the students and everybody on the other side will use it a lot easier. However, we are hoping that you would adopt it the same way that you are thinking about ChatGPT, which can be a universal interface now for that.
Yeah, and we learn as we are building this. So it's a new technology. We are getting better as we add more stuff. And what we have right now is a really, really good base. And we will continue expanding. So as we already talked, there will be different roles even for the staff side. And one of the things that we will explore is potentially totally personal assistants. So the assistant that you can scope to yourself and your own preferences, and they will be like your own team that you can use to do in your day-to-day. So that's something where we want to go. But let's talk about what we have right now. So the personal assistant is huge. It has access to everything in the CRM, basically. I want to show a couple of things that people might not know. That is that you can actually ask it element questions as well. It connects to our intercom help center and it's able to use all that content. So you can ask it, hey, what is a segment? Let me just make that bigger. And it's able to answer that. It's basically, it's not the same chatbot. So the chatbot we have on our intercom, that's a different company.
On our help, yeah.
So this is something where you should also go to ask questions because it's really helpful. You can even be like, hey, is there a way to detect when person enters a segment?
Yeah, we were seeing that a lot of you were asking product questions into the assistant, which totally makes sense. So we pivoted and said, okay, let's just ingest all of that data in. So now we're able to provide it through here. So it's again, that vision of one interface where you can get both product, help and actually get your work done.
Yes, and so enough from the help center. I want to show one other feature. We were talking about the knowledge base, the private knowledge, right? So there's one, can you tell me about our chat norms? So we have our rules for like etiquette, how we behave. Not that, sorry. Take a look in the knowledge base, please. So yeah, the one trick, if you see that it doesn't behave as you want it to, you can always be a little bit more specific. We will of course work to fix this and to be better, but if you just give it a little bit more context, and it will able to go their way. And so exploring the knowledge base. So if you think about it, it's kind of like a person. You're telling, hey, can you do this for me? Can you analyze this? Can you give me that? Proceed. And everything, because you have the history of the conversation, it's able to build on that so it even understands like the nuance. So see, this is actually what in element we need to do on our Slack, see? So we need to be green circle for active.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Reactive?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
So this is a dummy example, but what you can do here, you can put your procedures. What a person should do when there's a student at risk, what a person should do when this happens. So it can be a really, really useful tool. I want to showcase one more because we have a lot of time. There's a copywriter. A lot of you use this under the hood. You'll probably, in conversations, you will say, hey, write me this better, write me this nicer. One thing that powers the copywriter is here. If we go to the branding section, below, there's a brand writing style guide. So this is the important part. This is what it uses to kind of inspire itself when it writes content, and if you want to write it in the same way how you actually post. So what you can do actually, you can write yourself these, or you can just paste in an example here from like a blog post or somewhere like this one, and it will be able to infer what's the writing style guide, and you can save that if you want. And then what you can do, so you have it here, let's just go to the copywriter, and say, hey, let's copy some text here. And you can say, hey, write me this better, and it will use actually that tone. Can you write me this better? So that same brand writing style guide is actually what powers what we showed on the video during the keynote, the campaign one. So when it creates the campaigns and writes all the content for them, for the emails, it actually will use that as well. So it like follows your brand across.
So we just want to leave, we talked about a little bit about kind of this, wanted to highlight the kind of data security, and I want to make sure that this is a question that we get asked quite a bit. And depending on the models that we're using, we're never training on that data. We're using all the commercial APIs or all the commercial models. So any of those providers are not training on that data. They're not training on your data. So everything is secure. We're not training on it. The data, a lot of the data stays in Element 451 around some of the processing components that we need to do. So we're very, very careful in making sure that we have the security is kind of within the bounds of your Element instance and doesn't kind of escape a lot of that stuff. The one thing that we announced today is proactive goal-oriented AI assistance. And this is something very, very important because now you're seeing all of the multimodal capabilities, you're seeing all the audio and voice, but now, in a couple of months, 2, 3, 4 months, like I said, we don't work in really year-long planning. It's usually, 6 weeks to, a few months. So very soon, and hopefully by the end of the year, we will have an engine where this AI assistants, you can see now we can probably give them goals, right? We can have a team that can have a goal of, based on this segment, here's a goal, move them to a particular milestone, right? Just do everything possible to move them to this milestone. So that's, we haven't kind of figured out the ergonomics or like the affordances of how this is going to, kind of play into the product itself, but you can see that that can be an extension there when you're setting up these assistants, and you can make them goal-oriented. And then behind the scenes, we're going to constantly be evaluating those users as new data comes in. Those assistants will be the same thing. Rather than you assigning a task to a staff member, that assistant is going to have an internal task that has to go check in on that student every single day and say, what is the next best thing I need to do to accomplish this goal? And there's going to be a lot of things that go in there, just like you saw from a campaign perspective, but it will have the context of that student, it will have the context of what they have done, and then you'll use the best channel to reach out to that student if that's what needs to happen. Or maybe you can say, I'm going to assign a task to this student to do this thing in the portal, right? So you can see how everything is coming together, and now we're just layering more of those skills and capabilities. But this is going to be revolutionary from our perspective, because since day one, it's been, how do we get to a segment of one, a personalized journey for every student? And we can't get there without AI. And we need this ability to have this proactive agents and proactive bots in order to get there and scale this in mass. We just don't have the manpower to call every single prospect and say, hey, come to the open house, or send them a text message yes, you can do a lot of the predefined things, but that person might, be out of town. So the context of them being out of town and the event changing by 3 hours or 2 hours or something like that, you might need notifications there. So a lot of the use cases that as a person, if we look at a record, we can say, okay, this is what we need to do, 1, 2, 3. Think about, as an expert now, we can codify that in there and then scale it infinitely for as many contexts and as many kind of journeys and goals that you want to handle around that. So that's really been the vision here. So we didn't leave a lot of time for questions. Just wanted to kind of show you a whole bunch of stuff, and catch us around. We do have another session here. We'll talk about myself and Eric today a little bit later. Is it later or is it right after this?
No. After, it's at 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. So we'll talk a little bit about kind of the AI for student success. So Ty touched a lot on the portals today. So we'll expand a little bit on that and how we're thinking about the different components of that, ecosystem.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ardis, Petar, everyone. Give them a round of applause.